For those who just joined, everyone's been muted, and you can unmute when you have questions. We just didn't want any background noise. Just to let you know that when we get to Q&A, then just please unmute yourself and ask questions accordingly. So. All right. Okay, so I think we're going to get started. Just a couple housekeeping rules. Hi, I'm Ken Leibow with the Light Brokerage Technology Committee. And I just wanted to welcome everyone to our LBTC meeting today, December 3rd. We are recording this meeting so that for those that couldn't make the meeting, we will make it available, the recording, and we'll send that out through an email to the membership, and also we'll have a link on it on the LBTC LinkedIn group, where we have which most of you should already be members of. If you aren't already. With that being said, I thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that it's been a very unusual year with COVID and has kind of upset the balance of everything in the industry and probably all industries in the world. And Light Brokerage Technology Committee is not immune to that as well. So this is really our first big meeting that we're having with everyone together this year. So here's our agenda, just a high-level agenda, what we're going to cover over the hour. We're going to introduce our committee leadership team, talk about our 2021 initiatives, provide a membership update, talk about volunteers, and then we'll have a Q&A session. And if we have time, at the end, we may do a little educating on some industry term stuff. So with that being said, please, everyone, keep your phone or your mics on mute until you have a question, so we don't have any background noise. Now, I know that this year we have a lot of new members, and we always start our meeting with our antitrust statement. So please don't fall asleep while I read this. So while the participants in the committee will be natural competitors within the life insurance industry, the committee's purpose is to provide a non-competitive forum. Under no circumstances shall the members of the committee allow meetings to be used as a means of competing organizations to reach any understanding which restricts competition or in any way impairs the ability of members to exercise
breaking up.
Independent business judgment regarding matters affecting competition. The committee looks to follow the various laws that restrict the exchange of information between competitors regarding pricing, restrictions on marketing, relationships, and other areas of anti-competitive behavior. All intellectual property developed by this committee will be solely owned by the committee. It is intended that materials the committee develops, such as white papers, implementation guides, user guides, and best practices, will be available for use by any parties that wish to copy, distribute, display, and perform the work documented therein using the Creative Commons Attribution No Derivative Works license. And that's it. You can wake up now. Moving forward. So let me start by introducing our steering committee. For those not familiar with that are new members, and I know this is all outlined in the charter when you got your membership form, we have a steering committee that is there to support the co-chairs, which have 2-year terms. And similar to what the co-chairs have, is we try to have a representation, a representative from the carrier side, the vendor side, the distribution side. Typically, the steering committee has been me.
And you're breaking up.
I'm sorry, am I breaking up?
Can you hear us?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're going complete silent though, intermittently.
How about now?
That's
Can
good.
hear you. Yep.
All right, I'm on the steering committee slide. Does everybody see that okay? Is that a yes? Can you guys hear me? I can't believe I'm having technical issues. It's Murphy's
Yes, I hear you.
Law. Okay, can you guys hear me now? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We're good. Okay, I got a thumbs up. All right. The steering committee is there to assist the co-chairs of our committee. We handle the administrative functions, and we're part of a small group that were the original founders back in 2009 of LBTC. This is our 12th year, so we're very excited that we've survived all this time very successfully. So the steering committee is myself, CEO of InsurTech Express, Ken Leibow. We have Joann Mattson, Vice President of Strategy and Business Consulting at Highland Capital, and Jeff Lingenfelter, E-Services Director at John Hancock. And now to introduce our co-chairs, which we're really excited. Our co-chairs are nominated and voted on by the membership, and they serve a 2-year term. And representing vendors, we have Brian Kirland, Senior Director of Sales and Marketing at Insurance Bay. We have Pat Wedeking, Vice President of TELUS Brokerage. And representing carriers, we have Marjorie of VP of Product Management at AIG. And let me just read you our mission. Our mission is to exchange information about technology-related products and services related to the marketing, sale, and servicing of insurance products among independent brokerage and other life insurance distribution channels. And you can see our really cool graphic of education, informational, and transformational. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Jeff Lingenfelter. Jeff? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, probably me here, Ken, right?
Pat,
Yeah.
I apologize. Go ahead, Pat.
No problem. Hi, everybody. Pat Wedeking here, and I just, with the technical issues, I tried to reduce the load here on my computer and turn the camera off, so I'll spare you. But we tried to divide our coming year into a couple different parts, one being administrative initiatives and the other more technical, technology-related. So we looked at previous boards, initiatives, and activities that were going on. And one of the things that we noticed is that we talked about a name change last year. So we're going to move forward with that. We'll be the Life Distribution Technology Committee, a little more appropriate for what we're trying to do and appeal to more than just the brokerage channel. And hopefully some of the things we put together can benefit other distribution channels. So we will be moving forward with a new logo, some changes, and then there's just some work to be done along this line, as you can imagine. We also inherited from the previous co-chairs desire to put together a webinar series. We thought that was a pretty good idea. Not that we all need more webinars to attend, but it does make sense to stay present, stay relevant, and kind of report back to the group. So we'll be putting together a webinar series. And of course, the challenge there is just to make it meaningful. And that's what we intend to do. We're thinking about a quarterly series, and would take your feedback on that. And we'll probably report on the activities that we're pursuing and other relevant topics in the world of life technology. And then we just thought we want to make sure we keep the structure of our group as strong as possible, so we don't lose any of that, and make sure we enforce, I guess, some of the governance rules that we already have. We don't need any more. We don't need any more rules, but we probably want to enforce some of the things we have. The steering committee just informed us that some people show up, some don't, as you can imagine, with a volunteer organization. And if this is too much for some people, we just want to gracefully thank them and kind of move on without them. So those are some of the administrative roles or initiatives that we're going to be going after, and then to talk about the technology related initiatives. We put together a survey. Many of you probably replied to it, and to review what we asked and what we learned is Jeff. Jeff, take it away.
All right, thanks. So Jeff Lingenfelter here. So I know most of you probably missed the 80-page survey we usually do once a year prior to NELBA, and all the results there. So we put out a short survey this time, 3 questions, sent it out to everybody, including distribution carriers as well as vendors, just try to get a little interest on what this group should be doing going forward. So I see the 3 questions we have there. I'm just going to bring up a few of the the highest rated answers that we got, 8 or 9, and then had a free form area for you to add stuff to. The free form, we didn't get much in that one. So based off the answers we provided, that's how they were ranked. So go ahead and jump to the next screen and let's kind of run through. What interests you? As it relates to technology in the life brokerage industry, we ask you to rank the items that are interest to you. One is developing a common API for the life insurance industry. That came up as the top answer, followed by automated underwriting, bringing the underwriting data to the point of sale, the instant decisioning, electronic policy delivery, and advancing the voice signature and other electronic signatures for life insurance applications. So out of these 4, I think we're going to have a couple working groups going on with a couple of these. So again, we're definitely going to encourage you to get involved in these. So be thinking about it. At the end of the meeting here, we're going to ask for your participation and start to put some groups together. So we'll go through which ones we're going to move forward with here and shortly. I just wanted to give you the results of the survey and show you the top 4 for this question. So next one, Ken. All right, question 2 is what is troubling you and costing you money? And again, we asked you to rank these, from one to, I think we had 8 answers out there, and I'm just bringing up the top 4 here. So the first one is around automated underwriting data. So medical records, APS retrieval, decisioning. Next one came up with commission accounting, followed by generating, maintaining, and distributing illustrations, again, followed by policy delivery issues. So these are the top 4. I think we have a working group scheduled for one of these as well that we'll bring up here in just a second. So okay, we definitely appreciate your responses. And let's go to the next one, Ken. We had a few takeaways too, or things that we want to be able to, the deliverables, I guess, from these groups. So this question was, what role would you like the LBTC, soon to be DBTC or LDTC, to play in an effort to help? So same thing, we just asked you to rank them. I think we provided 8 answers out there. And here's the top one. Establish and maintain industry benchmarking practices. Create a common direction for carriers, vendors, and distribution agencies to follow. Facilitate a forum to discuss technology-related opportunities and challenges. And educate members on emerging technologies and help predict technology advancements. So I think a couple of these we're going to have as deliverables for the projects that are coming up here. So again, thanks for everybody taking the survey. If you took the time, it does mean something to us as vendors, as carriers, even distribution partners. We want this group to be able to do things that support the industry, and having your input is great. So we got 87 on this survey, and definitely appreciate that. Obviously, every time we send a survey out, please take the time. We'll try to keep it easy for you. Those big ones are hard to take, but it is valuable information for this group. So with that, I'll back over to Pat if you want to jump to the next slide, Ken.
Okay, so again, based on what we've talked about and focused on in previous years, plus the feedback from the survey, we came up with 3 technical initiatives to pursue during our term. Those are first, benchmarking, educating, and creating a guide going forward around a common API framework. So it's a mouthful, and we know all of these will be challenging, but that's one of them. The second one has to do with policy owner service and marketing. Seems to be one that was popular and had a lot of interest coming into this year, and think there's a lot we could do with this. Also think it's really good for the customers, for the clients and the families that we serve. So we're going to be talking about sort of best practices and identifying ways that carriers and distributors can work together to serve and market to existing policy owners. And then this whole thing called AU, right? Automated underwriting. And we have here evolution, and sometimes I wonder if it's a evolution or a revolution, but we have started our way as an industry down the automated underwriting path, and feedback we've received and experienced ourselves is just that way to go, just not quite there yet where we want to be. So we're going to talk about best and worst practices and see if we can get the data closer to the point of sale. One little illustration is, if the data is going to find somebody, why not know that before everybody spends a couple $100 or more to process the case? So working on ways that we could get the data closer to the point of sale, again, for a better customer experience. So those are the technical issues that we're going to talk about, what we want to do with them. So, so those are the issues to address. Now, what do we do? Well, we're going to try to provide benchmarking, what's going on, right? Maybe some spreadsheets or just information pieces on who's doing what. We may need to educate people. Some on our group pointed out that, a common API is a nice initiative. One of the first things would be to make sure everybody understands what an API is. So that kind of thing. And then this directive that we've gotten from the survey is to create a common direction. We're going to give it our best shot and try to create a consensus among this group and get that into some documentable forms. And then we do need a forum to discuss these things and just kind of hash some things out and talk to people. And, I know when we communicate, we learn to trust one another. And when we trust one another, I think things move faster. So we are going to focus on a forum for discussion. And so those are the items that we want to address. And Ken, you can go to the next slide here. Again, as we talked about, there are some other initiatives we want to be mindful of. This webinar series, we think some of the items that we'll talk about are automated underwriting, application processing in a digital world, the data exchange, not unlike the API initiative. And one of the things that we inherited from the previous group was making sure we understand the next generation and the next buying generation, if you will. So so we'll talk about catering to millennials as far as life insurance products and process goes. So this is our plea to you. And one of the things, this new group of co-chairs came in and we said, well, where are the working groups and how do things get done here? And what we learned is that, not unlike a lot of other groups, this is a volunteer organization, right? And we're probably, no, not probably, we're going to be as good as the volunteer work is. So this isn't something the 6 of us can do alone, and nor are we going to pretend that's the case. And we're just here to ask you today that if you consider yourself part of this group, please don't stand on the sidelines. It's kind of dead weight. What we need is active people and people that want to contribute. And so we'll ask, beg, and plead here that you volunteer to work in one of these working groups. We, as the bottom set of bullets talks about, we have assigned each of us to a group. So one from the steering committee and one from the co-chairs. Jeff and Brian are going to lead the API effort. Ken and Marjorie on the policy owner service, and Joann and I take up the automated underwriting initiative. But we do need chairpersons for each of the working groups and commitment. It's not going to take a lot of time, but we do need to take it seriously if we want to get something from it. My father was but good stuff in means good stuff out, and that's what we are looking for here. And we'll all along the way we'll try to educate folks. So that's some of the action items we're looking for. And I think our next slide is going to be talking about, are we on the membership items? Yeah, I'll turn it over to Joann to talk about some of these membership items that we need to address.
Great, thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. We started the LinkedIn group kind of late in the game. It's just been over the last several years that group has really started to grow, and it's grown every year. We currently have over 300 participants in that group, listening to the posts, trying to stay on top of what we're doing. And that's great to see, because it does show that people are interested in moving this industry forward. For those of you who either don't know about or haven't joined yet, it is available out on LinkedIn. It is the Life Brokerage Technology Committee currently, soon to be the Life Distribution Technology Committee. Now, there is, obviously, for a more formal type of membership and commitment, we do ask that people do read our charter, read the details, be willing to commit before you sign up and send back your membership form. Please reach out to me if you have not done so already. More importantly, if you have done so in the past and form, and maybe you've changed jobs from a vendor to a carrier, or a carrier to a BGA, or somewhere along the lines, please reach out for a new form. We do try very hard to make sure that all of our distribution partners are represented: carrier, vendor, distributor. So that's very important that we have that good mix, because that's where all the good ideas come from. Also be aware that all of our research, all of the results of our work, all of the product content that we develop is available out on our LBTC box account. And Ken can provide that information to you. That information is available to all signed up members, okay? And again, this committee, and Pat, you said it so well, it's only as good as the membership participation. The three of us, the six of us cannot do it alone. So if the idea is, and Pat, again, I'm going to take words out of your mouth, if you're going to sit on the sidelines and you just want to sit and listen, okay, but that's really not what this membership is about. This membership is about taking your years of experience, your expertise, and your voice, and putting them to work in a membership that truly wants to make a difference in this industry. If we don't make the improvements to this industry, we as a whole, we're not doing our best for the next generation trying to come into this industry. We have to make it better for them. We have to do well going forward, and we have to make sure that the legacy that we leave is something that is always a living, breathing, improving situation. So we ask, please, if you're going to sign up, please be sure you're willing to participate, at least attending the meetings. If you read the bylaws, we actually do say in there, folks who don't attend, we need to cut you. And we don't try to do that to be the bad guys, the mean guys, but we need people who can make a difference and who want to make a difference. So again, I know I don't want to beat a dead horse about it, but it's so important. The survival of not just our committee, but the industry as a whole depends on people's participation and contributing back. So I'll get off my soapbox about that. So Ken, I guess I'm turning it over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
Well, sure. I was actually just looking. I send my kids a quote every day, and today's was complaining without offering a solution is whining. So it kind of goes along with the thought, you know, if you don't contribute, you can't really complain. But well, what about some questions, answers, and like feedback from you? Do you think, you know, what questions do you have? We'll try to provide some answers. You think we're on the right track? Anything jump out at you as, you know, wrong or misdirected? See if you could help us with giving us some feedback here.
And you may have to unmute yourself to ask a question.
I'll just make a quick statement. I think, first off, my name is Mike Crowley. I'm from Lincoln Financial. I'm here on behalf of Autumn Bosworth, who wasn't able to make it. But as I look at kind of what you are outlining, what you're talking about, I think it's very much aligned with a lot of the questions we've been thinking about, some of the challenges I think the industry has been facing. So I'm really excited about seeing where we go as a group as we kind of push forward. So right on point in my mind.
Thank you.
And we know that there have been challenges. We know that people do have day jobs. I mean, every volunteer organization has to face those challenges. And oh, and by the way, just add a little COVID on top of that, just to make things a little harder. But we can still accomplish something. And it doesn't mean that we have to accomplish 30 things. Maybe we will accomplish 3 things or 4 things, but at least every step forward is a good step. So.
Great. More questions?
Actually, Ken, looks like Ben put a question in the chat asking about how do you sign up for committees. What Pat, Marge, and I will do is we're actually going to put together a very quick survey, just a couple of things about what committee interests you the most, and send it out. And then that'll be probably distributed hopefully by the end of today, if not by the end of the week, to keep it fresh in your mind. And then from there, you'll be able to make a selection, then we'll kind of divvy up from that point.
Awesome.
If this is Nancy Richardson. Hi, all. How you doing? Ken, looking forward to, the coming year ahead. And this information, I guess, just a comment, has been great at this timing for 2021. I think actually, and for me, I'm re-engaging in 2021 in a more heavier focus on this industry. I'm a consultant myself. And what I would like to understand from a volunteer perspective, given the range of skill sets, it would be helpful to understand what kind of skill sets you're looking for relative to those different committees. So for example, I have a techie side, but I also have a event, conference, marketing, management and rollout type capability. So if you were looking to have that kind of skill set, I would be interested in being able to help. And I'm very familiar with Zoom. So that's just an example.
Yeah, we're always looking in all the working groups I've done for LBTC or Accord or NELBA, going way back when,
Right.
is subject matter experts that fall under management, operations, technical, right? So we need all of that expertise to be able to put together the best initiative possible forward. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we
like technology is scary.
Nancy,
Don't let the
it
word
is great
technology
to
scare
see
you.
you.
We want everybody.
So, afternoon, everyone. Mike Bridges from Paperclip. When you start talking about your different initiatives, specifically the API, for those that the results from the survey, what's the appetite here? Are you guys looking to replace a cord?
No.
Okay. Well, that's where I was just curious of how deep is the API initiative?
Yeah, so let me clarify, and I'll let the co-chairs talk to the API, but let's just make a distinction or differentiation. All of the processes for life insurance in our world, whether it's e-app, e-delivery, pending case status, commission data feeds, a drop ticket, doing requirement ordering from a paramed provider and status back, all in-force status. We are partnered with Accord And we, with all of our trading partners between the solution providers, the distributors, and the carriers, we are exchanging that information using data standard and accord messages. So, so what we're talking about, and I'll let the co-chair talk about the bigger framework and the umbrella, but we are, don't want any communication around that. We are absolutely continuing to support and build out data standards for the industry that we've worked so hard for all these years. And with that, I don't know, Jeff or Pat or Brian, you guys want to talk to the API?
This is Pat, and I think we're gonna find out some of the answers to your question there, Mike. And in the working group, you know, how and what. I think one of the challenges is that we got to stay neutral, right? We can't really pick a horse and say follow it. But I think what we want to do is encourage the industry to speak and communicate to each other through APIs, right? And this nonsense where we send spreadsheets of quotes rate data and quoting data and form. You guys know, I don't have to tell you. I think we're about a decade behind the rest of the world, and it would just be our objective to move us closer to in step with the rest of the world. That's my thought from here.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think
a follow-up question then. The years being with this group, one of the things that's always been I've heard every year is pending case status. And that seems to be a relationship between the carrier and the vendors. And it always comes down to the quality and the timing of the information. I mean, Eshelbrenner, currently you guys as vendors, does that still remain a challenge today?
Yeah. The policy admin systems that the pending case data pumps out of are old and limited, and you have issues. And the other thing is that the technology they use to extract the data to get into a feed to deliver to the vendors, to deliver to the customers, often lags behind whatever process a carrier uses to get it up to the website. So if you're like, I need to know right now what the status of this underwriting requirement is, even if you're looking in a system, you're like, but is it the latest info? Let me double check on the website. And after a few times seeing the website's more current, you just kind of say, why don't I always check the website? So yeah, that's always a challenge with the pending case feeds. Hopefully that answers your question.
And I do want to note that we did do a study, Mike, and only one carrier showed up on that study showing as close to real time, where other carriers were 2 or 4 times a day. And even if they use that same feed to feed their website, Brian's 1,000% right. The key is whether if they were only updating their site 2 times a day, is the BGA, when is it going down to the data aggregator like Ebix or Pipeline and others, and then from there being synced up into their agency management system for that case manager to see it. So even if it's the same feed and being sent at the same frequency, okay, the website always seems to win the race, right, Brian? And we only had one carrier when we did our study, and I forgot the name, I forgot the carrier. I have to pull up the chart. We have that all documented, that actually was completely aligned and almost doing it in real time and do it. So, and it's not that there's a mistrust that the carrier's website is more up to date than the other. It's about understanding the timing of it and how many times you go and look it up. Because it would be completely self-defeating to say, oh, I see the carrier hasn't received that requirement yet. I don't trust it. Now let me log on to the carrier website after they log in our AMS. What a waste of time and effort. So there's got to be either a process around it or better alignment around the frequency of these things getting updated. So you brought up an extremely important problem that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure there's not some gravity keeping it the way that it is, because if you're a carrier, you're like, why don't I want my distributors coming to the website? That's a good opportunity for us. And if it's behind a password, well, it is behind password. So like they can track their engagement with their distributors. So I see the benefits to the carriers to not necessarily fix this issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the next follow-up is for the carriers, Lingenfelter, Crowley, Marjorie. Is there an underlying secret agenda here? I mean, again, this has been going on for a decade. Why haven't we solved it?
I don't think there's anything underlying. We're not trying to drive them to us necessarily. We know that multi-carrier options are still ideal. I think it's more of a matter of timing, effort, and priority. I've looked at it since I've been Hancock. I've been here about 4 years, and getting the feeds to be modified is not a small task. So I can tell you, if we're waiting for some big changes before I would even tackle that. It's not that I don't want to. It's just a matter of priorities with the other stuff going on, such as COVID and all the digital stuff you're trying to do up front. Case status is a little bit further down the line, is how I would state it.
And not just that, I think the load on our data systems to provide that data in a near real-time format, right, can be challenging, especially relative to the internal priorities we need to address.
What do we think? This is a huge question for me. What could this group do about it?
Well, this is Ken. The one thing we did address is we did have a certification test site to make sure, which doesn't solve the frequency problem, but the quality of the data was something this group did do a few years ago, right, Jeff? And we had, I think, Value Consulting, Tana Sabatino was part of that, where she built a kind of a test hub where a carrier could we could kind of certify that the data was good. So so another problem that had been brought up for many years was the quality of the data that was coming in, okay, and the consistency of the data around underwriting requirements and things like that. So we had addressed that piece, still knowing that we had this frequency problem. So that's one thing that we had going on. To go back to your question, how do we solve the frequency problem? I don't know, but I think that's obviously there's a lot of dependency around the carrier on that, right? I would think.
Yeah, and guys, and I don't want to speak ill of my brethren, but I often wonder if there's not just a little bit of flat out apathy within the BGA community that says, you know what, this is never going to get solved. Is this good enough? Is this just, how I have to do business? I think, sometimes what I hear from different folks is that they're just tired of dealing with it, and it's going to be too hard to change it, and we're stuck with it. And that's sad. That's sad because we can do better. So, boy, I was brutal, wasn't I? Yeah.
What could this group do about it?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I guess one suggestion I'd have was kind of like reframe the value proposition here, because I think we think of it as a feed that lets us know what's the status of all the underwriting requirements and the overall status of the cases in that feed, because I think that's the original purpose of it. But instead of trying to get like the near real-time update, just collecting that information in the database for the purpose of looking at how long it takes to get a carrier through the underwriting process for certain carriers, and really tracking it on the back end instead of trying to think of it as a real-time service. If we just like focus more on how to get value out of it, even though it's later than the website, then you'd have more adoption, and probably people would realize what they could do with it, even with the technology limitations that are in place.
Yeah, and some things are changing. I mean, the more you get, more accelerated underwriting, more instant issue type products and things like that, there's less back and forth in requirement processing, right? There's a less number of requirements, and you're getting the policies issued much faster. And I mean, that's always the goal, right? That cycle time and getting it up to speed. Because you don't hear anyone complaining about their annuity pending status complaints, right? So it is all around the underwriting, and that's the biggest thing, to get it approved and get it issued. And so it seems like there's two paths going on. One is that they're trying to accelerate the underwriting process and shortcut as much as possible. And maybe COVID's helped on that. And the other part is, so I'm not saying it's going to fix itself, but maybe it will be a little better on its own. But because of that, that's all I'm pointing
I would
out.
have to agree with that.
Well, Mike Bridges again. Well, my last question or slash I'd like to hear people weigh in on is the role of mobile computing in the process here, because I see a lot and hear a lot about the use of mobile computing, but until we get these data feeds cooking, do you think we can obtain the mobile environment?
I guess it depends on what
right.
point in the workflow you're talking about, Mike. I mean, if you're talking about a distributor, an advisor out there, an agent submitting an app on a mobile device, something that can be done fairly quickly, I think the industry is definitely, if not already there, moving in that direction. I think where the challenge is on the back end. And the question is on the back end, if you're either sitting at a carrier, or you're sitting at a BGA office, or if you're at that advisor just looking for status, then it becomes a different issue, you know, because so many of the current status tools that are available through the AMS vendors, for, at least from a BGA perspective, they're not all built well for mobile. Some are great, some are not. But if you're an independent agent sitting out there and you maybe don't have access to a really nice, cool, you know, AMS system, yeah, you've got a challenge on your hands, because exercising a little effort to get into the carrier website and get that same information, it's a little tougher. So
Yeah,
what?
and I think it depends on the carrier, right? Because I mean,
Amen.
right, the carrier can provide all that information in the mobile app if they've got one, but then making that information available for the agency for any mobile implementation they may have is a different story. And I think when it comes to more of a holistic understanding of this, you know, Mike, to your point, I think it's there's value in kind of looking at this more comprehensively as the process flows from agent to agency to carrier and back, versus just kind of in the, you know, the isolated vacuum of agency versus carrier versus agent. Can I ask, so I'd like to ask a question that I think built a little bit on what Mike just asked and maybe some of the previous one, but it's a little bit higher level. Is that okay to kind of?
Go for it.
Okay, so and just quick, by the way, my name is Mike Carter. I represent the National Life Group, and I'm new to the team, so taking a big gulp of vulnerability here and posing a new question to this group. Given the state of COVID, you know, we are all under pressure to deliver, you know, technical driven solutions and enhancements to our digital capabilities to conduct business as a normal state. And this is not necessarily in the context of a, you know, being competitive or competitive capabilities with each other, and maybe more in the spirit of just rapid evolution to industry demands to stay relevant in business. And so, you know, the API topic, I think, is a really good topic to drive that conversation. But have we considered having a committee just on the general transformation to adapt to the new normal and the yet to be determined future state?
No, but that's very interesting.
I don't know if I'm volunteering. I'm just throwing it out there, asking a question. I'd love to participate in whatever that, you know, if anything comes out of that.
Well, I wonder what the end game is. I mean, not to get into, there's a vaccine coming out, and we're going to go through at least 9 more months of this environment. And then what happens post game? What happens afterwards? Are we able to go back on the road and agents selling insurance the way they were selling before and things like that? Or is this normal? Or are you looking for more of a tactical, address things tactically, but knowing that things may reverse back down the road? And I'm not saying they are not, because I'm certainly not the expert on this stuff. But yeah.
And I don't know that any of us are the experts on this topic, right? I think that's where there's a value in the collaboration here, because, you know, we have, you know, necessity is the mother of invention here, right? And I'm sure that we've all done things outside of our normal process and scope to adhere to the business and to keep those guys working and capable. And so they've seen kind of the new, oh my gosh, IT can actually do stuff, you know, in a way that we didn't think they could prior to, again, out of necessity. And so, you know, I think that it's a good question there, Ken, in terms of assuming that COVID comes to an end in a relative reasonable period of time. Do we feel like from a technology perspective that the industry is just going to kind of, you know, flow back into its previous state, or have we inadvertently set a whole new field of new expectations in terms of technology and its enablement to do business because of what we had to deal with through COVID?
Yeah, and I think that it's a good question. And I think the one thing we have learned, and my God, I think, and I need to do my count, how many conferences I used to go every year versus how many webinars I've attended this year. Probably the webinars have outnumbered it because, but there's so many webinars where COVID is always the topic, right? Over and over again. And so, and I think Pat or Brian or someone mentioned earlier that we're always behind the rest of the world, or from a technology, the life insurance kind of goes in a slower pace. But a lot of things have accelerated technology-wise because of COVID this year that may have not been happening for another year or two. And so does that pace continue? Does it slow down? And then what changes come out of it? And if you think a committee of bringing people together to address it, like I said, I find it interesting, fascinating, and could be very beneficial. And so Mike, as Joann said, if you're volunteering, I think putting a group together and seeing if there's something there worth exploring and then reporting out and doing an initiative on, I think, you know, we welcome these kinds of things. You know, this was, you know, you're identifying the challenges of the times and how that's changing everything. And so certainly.
Yeah,
I honestly think that carriers especially, you know, they look at their brick and mortar location and the amount of money that's going out the door on those locations. Do they really need all those locations? You know, or do they need the amount of space that they have? And that's a question I think that's being asked across the board, because I think people are realizing, wow, I really can do this from my home, and, you know, maybe save myself some money in the budget that way. So I think it's very timely.
I mean, that's the industry-wide. Sorry, that real quick. That's the industry-wide epiphany there, right, Joann?
Mhm.
And that we all realized, holy crap, we can do all of this without any office space potentially. And what does that future state look like? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think more
I was just going to make a
the
comment.
businesses don't want to get stuck in the position they were paralyzed when everybody had to work at home. So I think the cat's out of the bag. They're not going back. They might have two processes, you know, two workspaces going on at the same time. One may be more minimized now, but they're not going back because they don't want to get caught paralyzed like they were before.
Yeah. Dave, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment from a carrier perspective, and I've said this many times over the last, you know, 8, 9, 10 months. You know, for better or worse, this COVID-19 cloud that's hanging over our heads, that has a bit of a silver lining. In that many of us have made very significant investments in the digital space, and what's transpired here in 2020, an impetus, a push in capabilities. And I know, at least from a principal perspective, we certainly do not want to see, once this is all behind us, you know, a reversion back to normal, because I think it is the new normal. And really taking it to the next step that will be our challenge. Version back. That cannot be our ultimate end goal here.
Amen.
Love the point of view and agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I mean, all industry releases and investor calls, and you could hear by some of these larger carriers. And then the same thing. I mean, you've seen a lot of, you know, pushing or mandating of electronic options during COVID. from a carrier perspective, the electronic aspect makes it a tremendously easier experience for all. How much stickiness can we create around that, I think is a huge opportunity as we go forward. No one wants to see a tremendous step back to the old ways, just because we've realized how much efficiency people can drive through use of all this digital technology that has been built, but now all of a sudden we've experienced a catalyst to drive it forward.
I think our need to adapt and evolve at the velocity that we did through COVID, for us as technology leaders, COVID, because the expectation has been set in terms of what we're capable of and what we can deliver to the business to support the business.
We got to do something to harness this sense of urgency that we have now and keep it going post-COVID, right? I mean, something here.
I mean, and it's beyond just the technical capabilities. I mean, it's even things like how do we stand up new initiatives and projects faster and still have cost control? How do we ramp up new resources quicker and establish those teams for build activities in a way that we've never done before? Because I'm pretty sure we've all done that intentionally or not intentionally in the past 9 to 10 months. And I think that there's some learnings there that we can share with each other that don't cross the line into the competitive landscape.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, this is Marjorie. Mike, I completely agree with you from that standpoint. I think, maybe we can swap some, like we have a project on the list right now about policy owner, like enforce service. Maybe we can swap that with this, general trend in the life insurance industry, what's going on, what we can look at, like in the future state. And one thought I have as we, talk about this is we don't necessarily need to look at like within life insurance industry. If you think about it, like technology within life insurance industry is lagging behind other industries, right? You would all agree. The close friends we have in the finance industry is like the banking area. They all have apps. I use Chase, bank. I use their app every single day. So all kinds of things you can imagine. How do they, advance technology and so far ahead of us? And now also if you think about like life insurance, at the end of the day is consumer business, right? We are facing consumers. And if you think about those companies like Amazon, Google, who also have large consumer base, they have large consumers, how do they use technology to have better customer experience? So I think we should really turn that into an overall project as we have representatives from the carriers, from the distribution folks who are close to our customers, and also the vendors, so we can really work together to put that future state like blueprint together.
Okay. I think a lot. How does the membership feel about switching an initiative around?
Yes, that sounds like there's a lot of really good information there that we need to explore, and even though it's fluid, this is a moving target on what's going on. At least the good thing is that if there's a way that we can get ahead of it, the curve, to help as everyone prepares their budgets and their technology roadmaps, and whether you're on the distribution, carrier, vendor side, whatever, I think we could probably help with that direction if we can do enough, study around it and get ahead of it. So, Mike, thank you.
No, I and thank you for the feedback on this. I think it's a rare opportunity for us to collaborate as an industry, and in the process of not only just kind of making sure that we collectively are adapting to whatever the new norm is, or maybe establishing what the new norm is, right? Because I don't know that that's been kind of laid out yet. But it's also an opportunity for us to kind of shake up the status quo around myths like, oh, the L&A industry is 5 years behind the financial services space or 5 years behind PNC. I don't know that it's been kind of a comfort zone that I've been hearing for the past few years.
Well, let's say PNC. It's not the financial services space, but that's okay.
But you get my drift, right?
I do,
It's just because we've been kind of pigeonholed into that narrative doesn't mean that we need to stay there comfortably. And this might be an opportunity for the L&A industry to kind of shine if we can collaborate on some of this stuff. Worst case scenario, we learn something from each other and have outcomes that we can influence as a result of, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Most importantly, we have a chair already, so that's great. Thanks, Mike.
It's
Just
Yeah,
wanted to
Mike, you usually wait
check.
for
We got
a
about 3 minutes
room.
left.
I'm sorry, Jay.
Welcome to the team, Mike.
welcome to the team.
Hey, it's my first meeting. I didn't come in here to like shake anything up or be a a thorn in anyone's side.
A very
Well,
important and a
just
very
about-
engaging topic. So absolutely.
So this is Deb Smith. Hello, everybody. I've been sitting back and listening.
Wow, you
Wow. Y'all should be real impressed by that. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, how long? I'm almost an hour. I've kept my mouth shut. So I think that, and one of the things that I was going to ask about is I know that some of us have been around for a long time, and we back in the day or a while ago, we actually locked ourselves in a room for a week, and we documented everything that happens in the workflow from the time and application, from everything that in every place that it was touched, from
the Post-it note.
I remember that.
Remember the post-it notes, yeah. So, but that was all put into a document, and I'm not quite sure who finally finished that document, but
I have it.
I have it too. Yeah. So one of the things is that, is there any opportunity with what Mike is saying is to look at that document and say, okay, what are the improvements that we've made over the years, which, the life insurance industry is very slow to change. So to take a look and see where we could actually fit in providing things that would expedite and would improve the things that we're trying to do to support not only the carrier, but distribution and, just take a look at it. I don't know if that would be, that's kind of the document is long and it's very detailed and it's kind of scary when you open it up. I'm moving, so I found my document. It made me think about all this crazy stuff. But so I don't know if that would help in especially with new people that are on the group or in the group that weren't out here maybe when we did some of those kind of things. It is an enlightening document, but what could we do to speed things up and what has changed over the years when we did that? To give us a little better focus. I think what Mike is talking about is very important because I don't think things are going to stay the same, either. My 6 years of not being in the pyramid, after not being in the pyramid business for so many, it's really enlightening in the things that you can do and how fast like Mike's saying, people can move if they really want to do something to expedite and ensure families in their futures, right? So that's my thoughts.
I'm sure it could be an adjunct, Deb, and certainly serve as a starting point for the conversation because, yeah, sure, a lot has changed. I mean, God, how many years was that white paper put together, Ken?
It was a while ago, but I can't remember. It's at least,
I think it's got to be more than 15 years.
It's got to be. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I remember all the Post-it notes. But if we shared that, we get that to Mike, he can look at it, huh? Like Debbie said, huh?
Yeah, I said I'm not trying to let all the newbies know how old we are, but yeah, it's a pretty dusty thing, but a lot of it I'm sure still has a lot of meat on it. So
yeah, it was a big project.
It's really kind of interesting how many things that we've worked on and wanted to change for all these years are still there and still have not changed. So if we truly are committed to trying to change how we can, get the carriers and everybody on board to be able to do the ultimate goal of, issuing policies and protecting families, then, how do we do that? what is the bigger picture of all that? So that's
Right.
my thought on it.
Good point.
Real good point.
And it's really interesting because I was talking about two people that I see on this call this morning. And it's so interesting to see because Dave Peters is on here and we were talking about Dave Peters this morning on another call I was on.
Watch it, Deb.
I know.
Dave's ears were burning.
And Lingenfelter also. We were talking about John Hancock this morning. So, it's interesting.
Yeah. I know, guys, we reached the top of the hour. It's been really engaging. I also want to let you know that we've got this recorded, and the PowerPoint will be in the a box folder. Once when I go to post the recording with the link, I'll provide a link to the PowerPoint as well. Okay, and we'll get that out to everybody so that you want to go back and play this back or look at the PowerPoint. That's fine. And yeah, so I think our next step is we got to get something out to you guys with these committees and get volunteers for people to chair them and to work on them with your vast experience and talents from IT to operations, etc. So that we can start kicking off these initiatives next year. And I think that's really important. And I know we got our first chair. Thanks, Mike. And
I'm more than happy to help wherever I can. I just don't know the procedures and how this works.
I'll help you, and you can. Yeah. Been doing this for a long time, but you'd be very helpful to guide you. We'll give you guidance. Sure.
Mike, just so you know, there is a hazing ceremony for committee chairs, which could be the reason why we haven't had a lot of them, but we'll go into that later.
Appreciate that, Joann.
Gotcha.
Mike, don't trust Joann.
Wow.
Thank you guys for the feedback. Really good stuff. So thank you. I miss y'all.
It's been great, guys. We appreciate all the feedback.
Well, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and blessed rest of the year, and next year hopefully is better from this. Huh?
Please stay safe, everyone.
Yes.
We need you next year, really bad.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll huddle up, take this information under advisement, and then we'll put out an email for another call to kind of get us going for the year.
Sounds great, Pat. All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.